Hey guys, and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Shadow of the Erdtree. I'm back again for a new, very silly, but very effective build, using the new hand-to-hand weapon type to its full, but I think it's best for you to take a look at what we're doing before we really explain it. As you can see, we're using the foot-based weapon of the two you can choose between of this weapon type, and then using it to strike and kick our way to complete domination over bosses. The burst is incredible. Using this Ash of War, we have a 4-hit combo of flying kicks, ending with a big downward slam. It comes out quick. 2 combos will be 8 big hits in seconds. The successive hit build of that is really nasty. And as you can see, the burst of bleed and the AR that brings on top of that, well, that's where it gets really deadly. What we've seen with a lot of Ashes are special combos that unfortunately take a little bit too long to properly land or be fully reliable in the tough boss fights of the DLC. Most of the time, their long combos and short recovery times means you can't land more than a quick blow or two to punish these bosses, lest you trade into damage you don't want to. With this pretty quick 4-hit combo though, the dryleaf whirlwind applies pretty quick, and it even moves forward during the combo. That means you could sacrifice the first couple of hits to kind of close the distance with the attack, landing the last bit before the boss can properly retaliate. Or if you time things very well, you could bully a boss with a double or even triple combo when used at the right time, interrupting with the stagger that builds up through that and bullying through to complete control of the fight. So I think that's pretty incredible. There's just one problem about this set, and it's this. It's not a great look. The meta of Elden Ring builds is pretty funny at this point, as more and more items, especially in this DLC it seems, have been added to enhance your damage. I mean, we all know the classic white mask for any bleed build, and that's why you see the white mask around a lot, but now we have new items like the Rakshasa armor, and now the Divine Bird Warrior Greaves, which do enhance the power of kicks, which is pretty incredible for a kick build. It's just, they look like this, man. Alright, so here's the gist of what's happening here and how it's working. This is the Dane's Blood Footwork weapon, and when fully upgraded in Bleed, we have C scaling in Strength and Dex, and then D in Arcane with some reasonable blood loss build-up. They're pretty cool weapons though, like you get this double kick combo with a little bit of fist being used on the light attacks. There is a difference between the one-hand version and the two-hand version though, just so you know, there's a different moveset. This is more singular straightforward, where the one hand, I feel like we're doing more horizontal swings, which might be better for hitting multiple targets. And then just like the fist one, you can charge the heavy to do these kind of earth or wind breaking hits for some real force behind them. But obviously the standout aspect of this is the dryleaf whirlwind Ash of War, which is that 4-hit combo we're seeing when we're smashing the bosses. And that's it. And that's how quick it comes out. And again, it moves forward, so you can use it as a gap closer to punish before they can even hit you. If you're using this against a humanoid enemy, you absolutely control the fight, destroying them by kind of infinitely staggering them or punishing them. Some bosses that are humanoid aren't going to take that, but there's build up and ways you can control it, like we saw with Messmer and the Relina examples. So between a mix of successive and bleed, there's so many ways we can enhance that. With bleed, we obviously have white mask and say the Lord of Blood's exaltation. With the kick aspect, there's the new Talisman that raises the potency of kicking, and this specific leg item that again does the same thing. With the armor, there's this new set that makes you take slightly more damage, but then increases the damage you deal to foes in general. So for once, with this melee build, we have 4 pieces that are all enhancing the playstyle specifically. And for the talismans, we almost wish we could have a 5th slot so we could fit in a little bit more successive power. And hell, even with a Wondrous Physic, I can hardly choose from the options. They're all great for this. So it all lends itself to high output for an effective combo from the Ash. But obviously, you still have the cool basics that can be used when needed. I love how effective it feels to double combo a boss with the Ash though, to stagger it and then continue this lengthy chain of damage. This is a really cool weapon type, a really fun playstyle. I'm glad it's so effective. It's just a shame what you have to look like to make it as strong as possible. Still, if you want to give it a try, let's cover all those details. So we'll kick things off with weapon, of course. This is Dane's Footwork, which obviously we've set to the affinity of blood for the purpose of this build. Dane's Footwork is not the same as the dryleaf arts, which you get in one of the early areas of the game. The Footwork is obviously more of a kicking based version, and the Ash of War doesn't come with it either. So to get this weapon, you're going to need to, unfortunately, defeat Dane. This occurs in the final area here, but it's my assumption that as you progress the main path and then, eventually challenge the NPCs to that big battle in the room that you must pass through to progress the game, you will end up fighting Dane. At the end of that big battle then, everyone that's involved that you defeat, you get to take all of their gear, including Dane's, which is literally just his footwork weapon. So you're gonna need to have defeated both Messmer and the final boss of the Rauh Ruins area before you can physically reach that final area and then fight Dane and take his weapon. To get the Ash of War for the weapon though that we definitely want, you're going to need to come here to the Rauh Ancient Ruins East Grace. And to enter it, you come to the heart of the Shadow Keep, entering the storehouse. Then you come west where there's a room with an elevator, pass through, cross the bridge, and then you're here. To get to that second Grace though, you follow this route along the edge here and go into a ruin. Pass through the ruin and eventually come out the other side to the water where this Grace is. Then the ash is literally just on the floor over here. So face northeast from the cross or the Grace. And as we come around here where the water is, we have these pillars. And just here between these pillars is the item on the ground. Now with that, you'll apply it to the weapon and then make sure you turn it to the blood affinity. This will give it the arcane scaling and blood loss buildup. Next we have the seal. Since we are running some arcane in this build, since we're using bleed, the dragon communion seal is an obvious choice because all we're using it for is the buff incantations. To be specific, that's Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength, the classic combo that you run in pretty much every build because it enhances your physical damage, reduces the damage you take, and maybe if you're using fire, increases that damage too. This is a great seal for that purpose then because it weighs nothing at all. So with the seal and incants discussed, let's talk about armor. Obviously, you want to run the white mask. It's a bleed build. This gives you attack power after the first blood loss occurs. It could be your own if you're fighting an enemy that can bleed you, but if blood loss occurs, whether you trigger it or not, you get an AR boost. Next, we have two pieces of the Rakshasa armor, the gauntlets and the chest piece. The purpose of this armor is to increase the damage you deal to everything flat out. Problem is that it quote unquote greatly increases the damage taken by the wearer. In PvE, that greatly increase is pretty damn minor. But there are things we can do, like your Talisman or your Wondrous Physic, to counteract that physical negation that occurs, to just benefit from the increase of damage, which I absolutely do. And again, you'll see this in a lot of builds because it's very effective at what it does. To get the set, you're going to need to come to the Eastern Nameless Mausoleum location, go in there and defeat the boss. You'll get the full armor set and a weapon. The problem with that mausoleum is it's deceptive. It's actually down here by the water. To reach that area, you'll first need to reach the castle watering hole, which means you need to come to the Shadow Keep. And from the main gate area, you work your way initially through the left side up onto this high bridge. You can come down here and open the shortcut. Then on the other side of the bridge, on about this location right there, is a ladder leading down. At the bottom of the ladder, you've got a secret passage that leads into the sewers, past this water. In there's a room with a painting, an illusion wall you can break by attacking or rolling into it. Through there's a coffin that you can go enter, and that will bring you down to the watering hole where you can now access this area. Heading southeast, we have the Recluse's River upstream. We follow the cliff edge and jump across until we see some bird golems on our left, and that's when we come around here, crossing over to them and working our way down until we're down to the water. Then we can just follow that stream, that water, east until we come to the Eastern Nameless Mausoleum, and that's how you access it. Lastly, we have the Divine Bird Warrior Greaves, the legs, the Great Sharp Talons, increase the force generated by kicks. That's roughly a 5% increase to your kicking attacks, which is kind of a non-negotiable as it is our main source of damage, especially with the Ash of War in particular. The Divine Bird Warrior Greaves are unfortunately a drop from an enemy type. Here's where I got them, the one that I specifically killed to get it. From the Rauh Ancient Ruins West Grace, we're going to follow this around, climbing up and eventually coming out to the water here where there's going to be an enemy about here. So to follow along this path very quickly, you basically just come from the Grace and climb these stairs and turn right at the top. Coming around right, we come a little bit higher, and this time we're going to hold left to progress through here, and eventually we're going to come to a lift or elevator that's going to bring us up. So at the top of the elevator, we're where we need to be. Heading northwest, you're going to see the water, and there's the guy wearing a full set of what we're looking for. And obviously, if you kill him and get the leg drop, great, that's what we're looking for. I'd recommend progressing past him and coming into the ruins where we have the Church of the Bud and the Grace there. Then you can come from here and run back to this water pretty quick to farm him repeatedly. But you're just going to have to kill him until he drops it. Anything you have that can raise your item discovery rate will make that more likely though, such as the Silver Scarab Talisman and other consumables like the Silver Pickled Foul Foot or the Silver Horned Tender to help with that. So good luck farming him, and I hope you get it pretty quick. Next though, we can blast through the talismans. Naturally, you're going to want the Shard of Alexander for most builds. We're using an Ash of War as our primary damage, so we absolutely want to increase the damage of our Ash of War. We are using successive hits, so we go for the Rotten Winged Sword Insignia over the prosthesis because this provides much more damage increase when you get successive hits. Of course, we're running the Lord of Blood's Exaltation as well. When blood loss occurs, we get that increase of attack power, which is working in unison with the White Mask. But our new talisman, the Shattered Stone Talisman, is great. It's raising the potency of kicking and stomping skills, which is exactly what we're using. To get the talisman then, you're going to need to come here to the Morth Ruins in the Scadu Altus region. Heading to the heart of the town, there's kind of a little entryway where the drop is a little bit too big to progress, but there is this hidden item, the talisman. So this is the building we're looking for, like I say, right in the heart of town, heading straight east when facing it. We walk in here, and on this ledge below on our left, just here where we have all these blood signs, is a body with the talisman on it. So it's very easy to come pick up, no problem at all. Next, we have the Wondrous Physic. Here, I'm running the Opaline hard tier to counter the negatives of wearing this armor that makes us take more damage. And in general, it's a nice defensive tier to have in. And then I'm running what is a meta pick, Blood-Sucking Crack tier. This enhances your attacks, but costs health. It drains your health throughout the fight. So in the footage you were seeing of me fighting the bosses, you would see my health be drained. That's because I was using this Wondrous Physic. It's a nice damage boost. It's definitely good, but not worth it to use if you're learning a boss fight, or that health drain is too much of a negative for you in any reason for any purpose like that. So if that's a concern for you, just run the successive hit one, the Thorny Crack tier, no problem. But if you're interested in trying the Blood-Sucking Crack tier, be my guest. You'll need to kill a Furnace Golem. It's the one that blocks the ruins of Unti at the entrance in the watering hole that we described how to get here earlier. To activate that specific one, you're going to need one hefty furnace pot to throw into its basket to activate it to then be able to fight it. If you don't have the recipe for that, just go back to the first region. You can go to the 3-path cross and then go north to the Great Bridge North Grace and come downhill under the bridge to this shack, the Rundown Traveler's Rest. That's where you get the recipe for the pot. In any case, go to the golem in the watering hole, go to the north side where these ruins are. You can climb up and there's this little balcony where they've obviously put it to be able to throw the furnace pot into the basket of the golem. This activates it, then you defeat it as normal with any golem, and then you get the crack tier. And that brings us to the last thing we need to talk about, the stats. At level 150, we have 60 vigor, 15 mind, 15 endurance, 22 strength, 23 dexterity. We dump in, we have 25 faith to be able to use our buff incantations, and 60 arcane. As usual, your stats may slightly differ because you had a different starting class. Just make sure you got the 60 arcane, the 25 faith, the 60 vigor, you're happy with your mind and endurance, and then you get as much strength and dexterity at a relatively equal level as far as you can. But there you have it. Our hilarious and very effective hand-to-hand build, the bloody footwork build, is genuinely fantastic, but God, is the fashion a nightmare. I did hope we get some sort of transmog system in the DLC, but then again, I do think it's cool that, you know, the items look the way they do, and they do create some interesting looks, don't they? If you guys enjoyed the build though, do drop a like, and if you have any suggestions on how to make it better, let us know in the comments. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thank you for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.